Hi, I'm Allison. Before I continue, please like and subscribe. One click from you means more stories can be shared. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers and make a difference. Let's begin. Life as a waitress at the Golden Spoon wasn't glamorous, but it paid my bills while I finished my finance degree. Most people saw the uniform and assumed that was all there was to me. They never bothered asking about the stack of textbooks I carried or noticed when I studied during breaks. Order up, Ali! Marco, our cook, called through the service window. Table 7's getting impatient. On it! I grabbed the plates, balancing them expertly as I navigated the busy Sunday brunch rush. There she is. Darlene, my favorite regular, smiled as I approached her table. I was hoping you'd be working today. How's the thesis coming along? Slow but steady, I said, setting down her usual veggie omelet. My advisor finally approved my research methodology. Just need to finish gathering data. That's wonderful. I told my son about your project. He works at First Capital and thinks it's fascinating. Really? That would be... Excuse me. An annoyed voice interrupted from the next table. Is chit-chat included in the service? Or can we actually get some coffee refills? I turned to face a man in an expensive suit, his Rolex glinting as he tapped impatiently on the table. 3 other people sat with him, all dressed like they'd stepped out of a corporate brochure. I'm so sorry, sir. I'll get that right away. When I returned with the coffee pot, the man was loudly discussing his latest acquisition. 30 million was a steal, he boasted. They had no idea what they were sitting on. By this time next year, I'll have flipped it for double. His companions nodded appreciatively, except for one woman who seemed uncomfortable with his volume. Gregory, maybe tone it down a bit, she suggested softly. Not everyone needs to hear about your business dealings. Why, Jessica? Afraid someone might learn something? He laughed, gesturing around the diner. Not exactly the Wolf of Wall Street crowd in here. I poured his coffee silently, determined not to react. So, what's good here? He asked, not bothering to look up at me. The eggs Benedict are popular, and our pancakes won. Boring, he cut me off. What else? I took a deep breath. The steak and eggs are excellent. Fine, medium rare. And bring me a mimosa. As I turned to go, he added loudly to his companions. This is why you stay in school, kids. Otherwise, you end up pushing pancakes at 40. I was 25, but I bit my tongue. Customers like him weren't worth losing my job over. Throughout their meal, Gregory continued making remarks just loud enough for me to hear. When I brought the check, he decided to take his performance to the next level. Hey, waitress, he called, waving me back. His friends looked uncomfortable, but he didn't seem to notice. Since you've been eavesdropping on our conversation, I've got a question for you. Yes, sir. I maintained my professional smile. I've got about 5 million I need to park somewhere for the next quarter. What's your financial advice? Where should I invest it? He smirked at his companions, clearly expecting them to enjoy the joke. The restaurant had gone oddly quiet. I could feel Darlene watching from her table, concerned. Well, sir, I said calmly, considering the current market volatility and upcoming Fed announcements, I'd recommend a diversified approach. Perhaps 40% in low-cost index funds, 30% in municipal bonds for the tax advantages, 20% in targeted value stocks and consumer staples, and 10% in precious metals as a hedge against inflation. But that's assuming you're looking for growth with moderate risk mitigation. Your strategy might differ depending on your liquidity needs and tax situation. The silence at the table was absolute. Gregory's mouth hung slightly open. Unless, of course, I added, you're more interested in impressing people than building actual wealth. In that case, just buy another watch. I walked away before he could respond, my heart pounding. Behind me, I heard one of his companions, Jessica, burst into laughter. She got you there, Greg, she said. My manager, Vivian, was waiting by the register, looking concerned. Everything okay, Allie? Fine, I assured her. Just a difficult table. That's Gregory Walsh, she whispered. He owns half the commercial real estate downtown. Don't let him get to you. Trust me, he's not worth the brain space, I replied. though in truth, his mocking had stung. As I was gathering my things at the end of my shift, Jessica from Gregory's table returned alone. "Excuse me," she said, approaching cautiously. "I wanted to apologize for my colleague's behavior earlier." "It's fine. Not my first rude customer." Still, it was completely unacceptable. She hesitated. "I'm Jessica Winters, CFO at Walsh Enterprises. I couldn't help overhearing you mention a finance thesis to another customer." I nodded, surprised. "I'm finishing my master's in financial economics. Just a few months left." "That's impressive. Look, our company is sponsoring a financial innovation competition next month. The winner gets a paid internship and substantial funding. You should consider entering." She handed me her business card. "Call my office if you're interested. And again, I'm sorry about Gregory. Some people never outgrow being the richest jerk in the room." After Jessica left, Darlene came over, having lingered to make sure I was okay. "That was quite something," she said. "You handled it beautifully." "Thanks." I probably should have just smiled and nodded. "Nonsense. Some people need a reality check." She patted my hand. "My son Kevin is coming to town next weekend. He'd love to hear about your thesis, too." The next week passed normally until Friday, when Gregory Walsh returned, alone this time. He sat in my section again, though there were plenty of empty tables. "Good afternoon," I said professionally. "What can I get for you today?" "Just coffee," he replied, studying me with newfound interest. "I didn't catch your name last time." "Allison." "Allison, right." He stirred his coffee slowly. "Jessica tells me you're studying finance." "That's right." "Where?" "University of—" "Never mind, doesn't matter," he interrupted. "Listen, I might have been a bit harsh last week. I'm willing to give you a chance to prove yourself. How about you come to my office on Monday and we'll discuss that investment strategy of yours?" The offer caught me off guard. "I appreciate that, but I'm actually quite busy with—" "I'm offering you an opportunity most people would kill for," he said, his voice hardening. "One meeting. Monday at 2 p.m. My office." He wrote an address on a napkin and slid it across the table. "Don't be late." After he left, Marco peered out from the kitchen. "Was that the jerk from last week?" "Yep." "What did he want?" "Honestly, I'm not sure." I called Jessica that evening and told her about Gregory's visit. "That's strange," she said. "Greg doesn't usually admit when he's wrong. But be careful. He can be vindictive when his ego is bruised." "Should I go to the meeting?" "Maybe. Just keep your guard up. And let me know how it goes." Monday arrived, and against my better judgment, I found myself in the gleaming lobby of Walsh Enterprises. The receptionist directed me to the top floor, where Gregory was waiting in a corner office with panoramic views of the city. "Allison, right on time. Have a seat." His friendliness seemed forced. "Drink?" "No, thank you." "Suit yourself." He poured himself something amber from a crystal decanter. "So tell me about this brilliant financial mind of yours. Where does a waitress learn about municipal bonds and inflation hedges?" "I told you I'm completing my master's in financial economics." Right. He waved dismissively. "And what's your big thesis about?" "Predictive modeling for market corrections based on sentiment analysis of corporate communications." "Interesting." He leaned forward. "And who's funding this research?" Something felt off. "It's self-funded. Why all the questions?" "Just curious about the person who gave me such confident financial advice." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Here's the thing, Allison. I looked into you. Community college undergrad, scholarship to a second-tier graduate program, working as a waitress to make ends meet. Not exactly the pedigree of a financial wunderkind." I stood up. "I think this meeting was a mistake." "Sit down," he said sharply. "I'm not finished. You embarrassed me in front of my colleagues, made me look foolish. I don't like that." I answered your question honestly. "If that embarrassed you, that's not my problem." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Here's what I'm offering. I have connections. I can make sure your little thesis gets the attention it deserves. Open doors that would otherwise stay closed to someone like you. Someone like me? You know what I mean. Or, he paused dramatically. I can make some calls and ensure that no reputable financial institution in this city ever takes you seriously. Your choice. I felt sick. You'd go that far because I answered a question you asked me? I protect what's mine. My reputation matters in this town. I need to think about it. Take a day. Call my assistant with your answer. He turned back to his computer, dismissing me. That night, I met Kevin, Darlene's son, for coffee. I'd originally planned to discuss my thesis, but instead found myself recounting the situation with Gregory. That's classic Walsh, Kevin said, shaking his head. He's notorious for holding grudges and throwing his weight around. What should I do? First, document everything. That meeting today was basically attempted blackmail. He thought for a moment. You know, I've heard rumors about Walsh Enterprises. There might be a way to turn this around, but it would take some courage. I'm listening. Over the next hour, Kevin outlined a plan. As a financial analyst at a competing firm, he'd heard whispers about Gregory's business practices, specifically how he secured funding for his latest projects. If what I've heard is true, he's been misrepresenting his company's financial health to investors, Kevin explained. Nothing that would land him in jail, but enough to scare away potential partners if it became public. How would we prove it? That's the tricky part. We'd need access to internal documents. Jessica might help, I suggested. She seemed uncomfortable with Gregory's behavior. It's worth a shot, but be careful. Corporate loyalty runs deep. The next day, I called Jessica and asked to meet privately. She agreed, suggesting a coffee shop far from Walsh Enterprises. I was hoping to hear good news, she said when we met. But judging by your expression, the meeting didn't go well. I recounted my conversation with Gregory, including his threats. That sounds like him, she sighed. I'm sorry, Allison. I should have warned you more explicitly. Jessica, I need to ask you something difficult. Have you noticed anything questionable in the company's financial reporting? Her expression changed immediately. Why would you ask that? Because Gregory threatened my future over nothing more than answering a question honestly. It made me wonder what else he might do when he feels threatened. She was quiet for a long time. I can't discuss company business, but, she hesitated. I will say that I've been documenting certain discrepancies for my own protection. Nothing concrete enough to take action on. What if we work together? You have inside knowledge and I have nothing to lose. Except your career, she reminded me. Gregory wasn't exaggerating about his influence. Some things are worth fighting for. Jessica studied me thoughtfully. The financial innovation competition I mentioned, the deadline is tomorrow. Your predictive modeling thesis, could it be applied to identify patterns of financial misrepresentation? Theoretically, yes, with the right data set. Submit your proposal. If it's selected, you'll have legitimate access to company information as part of the competition. Over the next 3 weeks, things moved quickly. My proposal was accepted into the competition, giving me access to financial data from several companies, including Walsh Enterprises. Jessica discreetly guided me toward relevant documents without explicitly revealing anything herself. Meanwhile, Gregory seemed to have forgotten about me. He didn't return to the diner, and his assistant never called to follow up on his ultimatum. The competition culminated in a presentation event attended by financial industry leaders from across the city. To my surprise, my analysis made it to the finals, meaning I would present directly to the judges, including Gregory Walsh himself. Nervous? Jessica whispered as I prepared my materials. Terrified, I admitted. Remember, stick to the methodology. Let the data speak for itself. When my turn came, I took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. Gregory's expression changed from boredom to shock when he recognized me. Good afternoon, I began. My presentation today demonstrates how sentiment analysis of corporate communications can predict market corrections by identifying patterns of inconsistency between public statements and financial realities. For the next 15 minutes, I walked through my methodology, using anonymized examples that anyone familiar with Walsh Enterprises would recognize. I never mentioned Gregory's company by name, but the implication was clear to those who knew what to look for. In conclusion, I finished, this model identifies potential discrepancies with 87% accuracy, providing investors with an early warning system for companies whose public image may not align with their financial reality. The applause was enthusiastic, except from Gregory, who sat stone-faced. During the judge's deliberation, he cornered me in the hallway. "You think you're clever," he hissed, "but you've just ended your career before it began. I'll make sure of it." "Actually," came a voice from behind us, "she's just launched it spectacularly." We turned to find Martin Chen, CEO of Vertex Financial, standing there with Jessica. "Miss Winters has been keeping me informed about your thesis, Allison," he said. "Impressive work. Vertex would be very interested in implementing your model and in hiring you to oversee the project." Gregory's face reddened. "Martin, you can't be serious. She's a waitress playing at being an analyst. And yet her analysis accurately identified the exact issues that made us decline your latest investment proposal," Martin replied coolly. "Issues you assured me didn't exist." Other judges and attendees had gathered around, listening intently. "This is absurd," Gregory sputtered. "Jessica, tell them this is nonsense." Jessica stepped forward. "I've been documenting the discrepancies for months, Gregory. Your creative accounting may have fooled some investors, but it won't stand up to real scrutiny. You'll regret this," he threatened. "Both of you." "I don't think so," Martin said. "Unless you want every investor in your current projects to demand an independent audit, I suggest you accept defeat gracefully for once." The competition results were announced shortly after. I didn't win first place. That went to a brilliant proposal about sustainable investment metrics, but I did receive a Special Innovation Award, and more importantly, a job offer from Vertex Financial. As the event wound down, Darlene and Kevin appeared, having watched my presentation from the audience. "I knew you were smart," Darlene beamed, "but that was extraordinary." "Couldn't have done it without your son's advice," I told her, squeezing Kevin's hand gratefully. 6 months later, Gregory Walsh's empire began to crumble. Without new investment, and with existing partners demanding transparency, his over-leveraged properties started slipping away. Jessica took over as interim CEO when the board finally forced Gregory out. My last shift at the Golden Spoon was bittersweet. Marco made me a special goodbye breakfast, and Vivian presented me with a card signed by everyone. "We'll miss you," she said, "but we're so proud." As I was hanging up my apron for the last time, the door chimed. Gregory Walsh walked in, looking noticeably less polished than before. The expensive watch was gone, replaced by a simple band. His suit, while still nice, wasn't the bespoke designer wear he'd flaunted before. He took a seat at the counter, not in my section, but I approached him anyway. "Coffee?" I offered. He looked up, surprised. "Yes, black." I poured him a cup. We regarded each other silently for a moment. "I heard you're at Vertex now," he finally said. "Senior risk analyst," I confirmed. "And Jessica?" "Doing well. The board confirmed her as permanent CEO last week." He nodded slowly. "I underestimated both of you." "Yes, you did." "I've lost nearly everything," he said quietly. "The board took the company. Most of my properties are being sold off. Even my so-called friends have disappeared." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said genuinely. Revenge had never been my goal. Justice had. "No, you're not," he replied, but without malice. "You're thinking I got what I deserved. Actually, I'm thinking about something my grandmother used to say. How you treat the waiter says everything about your character. Maybe if you'd remembered that, things might have turned out differently." He considered this, then reached for his wallet. "What do I owe you for the coffee?" "It's on the house. Good luck, Mr. Walsh." As he left, Darlene entered, accompanied by Kevin. "Was that who I think it was?" she asked. "Just another customer," I replied, untying my apron. "Ready for dinner? I'm finally free." "More than ready," Kevin smiled, taking my hand. As we walked out together, toward my new job, my new life, and maybe something more with Kevin, I couldn't help but wonder, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have pursued justice, or would you have let it go?